So given the comments you were making and the questions you were asking about why is today's level of morality in society reach such detrimental levels or is so damaging to the future of our race as human beings. And then the comment came up as to the need for sila, which is virtue or the practice, the discipline of one's own character by saying yes to wholesome actions and choices, obviously, of actions, whether they're thoughts or words spoken or physical, bodily actions, and how they play a major role in the very quality of one's life. Whether the person knows what sila is, sila, or the practice of virtue or morality, whether they know what it is, or whether they've been taught what it is or not, when they are living their lives in a certain way, making certain choices in their actions, whether they kill, whether they steal, whether they cheat on their partners, whether they lie, gossip, all these things against other people, etc. The outcomes are going to be there. So I might be working, let's say, in the capacity of in the world of, for example, therapy. Patients would come and they would be complaining about, I feel miserable after I do this, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. Why do I feel so horrible? Why do I keep doing what I'm doing that I know is horrible, but I cannot get myself out of that negative cycle of behavior? And you see in front of you a human being who most often is a person who's never heard of sila, but they are tasting its validity, its reality. Why? Because it is evidenced, it is present thanks to the choices in their actions. So whether you believe in virtue or in its value or in morality or not, the outcome will never lie, because you're going to be on the receiving end of the outcome of your actions. So if a person is cheating against their loved one, or if they are doing the opposite, let's say being faithful and caring and protective, kind, not harming anyone, keeping sobriety, not getting into drugs, maintaining the mind's purity, protecting its boundaries, or the opposite, going to these happy hour thingies and getting drunk and acting stupid and silly, and then the next morning they wake up and all hell has broken loose in their lives. And there is a mile-long list of things that they had done, each and every single one of which they regret. But it has already been done. Now begins the series of going and begging forgiveness, let's say, from someone or some people, or at the very least your own self, the person. Because now you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. The most important person that you can never run away from. And there you are, not having even been taught about sila or what it is, yet you have been tasting its fruits from as far back as you can remember in your life, when you realized there's an ouch to a pinch. Now it has reached such levels that it is unavoidable, and now as an adult you cannot get away with it. There is a price that you need to pay. Now conversely, it's also, like I was mentioning earlier, the person who is smart, basically, who's wiser than the previous example, is a person who will say, you know, I don't want to feel like that. After they fall a few times and they have all these emotional, blisters and things that they've experienced as a result of their unwholesome or unskillful, bad or evil choices in their actions. They've seen it. They still have the aftertaste of it in their mouth. They're horrified from doing it again. It's not you're afraid of anyone, somebody punishing you, but you are afraid of ever having to confront yourself having done them in the first place, which is a situation where you have passed the point of no return. For which reason you say to yourself, I'm never going to do it again. That definitive, resolute stance builds character. And it also gives joy. The person who's practicing sila is not dumb. They're not blindly following anyone. Someone who is immoral, they're not doing that. They're not behaving morally or having a virtuous character develop. Not for anyone else, essentially, other than their own sense of well-being. So there isn't that remorse. There isn't that sense of guilt that you have to carry over your shoulders like Atlas, like carrying the whole planet on his back, up the hill, up the mountain. None of that. So a person who practices sila really tastes life in a wonderful way. They can live life, actually, without the added hassle of dealing with guilt. Because today, even in the case of a person who's, for the time being, is getting away with doing evil and bad things to others or oneself, they might be numbing themselves to a point where they don't feel necessarily, when they're conscious about, the effects of what their actions are. But soon enough, they will feel it. Not in the next life or something, in this life. And usually it shows up in the form of anxiety, in the form of being, nothing really pleases you. Things lose their taste. You cannot maintain friendships. You cannot stay by yourself. You cannot live with yourself. And you want to constantly add new habits, new addictions to kind of outdo the previous drug for you. And these are the individuals who, many of whom want to harm themselves eventually by suicide or something else, because they cannot face themselves anymore. So that's another reason why many people want to harm themselves. Because someone who doesn't have that moral fiber developing, and it's a development, you don't come, with that necessarily. That's a rare occurrence. So a person who's developing themselves morally, developing a virtuous character based on active behavior, decision making and choices that they demonstrate again and again and again in their lives with their thoughts, choice in thoughts and what type of thoughts they have, what they allow in their mind to take place, associations, etc. in the mind. Speech, verbal actions, the choice of words, not talking anywhere, anytime, simply because they feel like it. Knowing the right time, knowing the right type of words to be spoken. Speaking types of words that actually are pleasing and lovable and admirable. Things that go straight to the heart. Things that bring out the best in people. Loving words, kind words. And when the person doesn't have those to say, to use, guess what? They will not speak out loud or share or say something that is the opposite of a loving word. So there's kindness there, there's responsibility. Hence, a person who is moral, who is virtuous, is also a person who protects. Protects oneself, of course, first, and also protects others. Protects others. They say in regards to saints and individuals who stand out in world religions and things, many come to mind, but from the Western world religion and religious practice, you can think of Jesus and then also obviously much later Francis of Assisi. From what I recall, they used to say, and still do, and texts are there, that say, all beings around them used to feel like animals would come approach them, birds, children. They come and frolic around them because they feel safe. People feel safe. That's why you had people, murderers, or prostitutes, and all these people coming around Jesus and hanging around because they felt they were accepted, they were loved, they were appreciated, they were just seen beyond what their actions were. Why? Because they, for the first time in their lives, felt protected. So virtue or moral development is there for protection of oneself and others. So whether the person knows what sila is, sila being the first of the three trainings that the Buddha taught. Sila, samadhi, which is mental cultivation, which is meditation. Proper meditation, that is. The one that takes to the third of the trainings, the three trainings, which is panya, which is discernment, which is wisdom. We don't just meditate for meditation's sake in this path. It leads us somewhere more sublime, an understanding. Not in a different world, not in a different life, not after we're dead. No, now. Now. These three come alive in the person's present moment. This is what I also mean oftentimes by saying living responsibly. And a person who lives responsibly in this fashion is a socially conscious, aware being. A citizen of the universe. Anywhere he or she goes, the universe will be glad to have them there. Because the whole entire universe, everything resonates and feels comfortable with that presence. Because you add on to the beauty of whatever there is that can be called beautiful. And it's very alive, it's very fresh. So all starting from the person saying, you know what, I don't want to end up feeling lousy. or feel regret or remorse. Okay, we have power over this. Let me not do this. And let me do something the opposite, something that grants me a sense of fulfillment, a sense of at least the lack of regret, which is contentedness, peace, tranquility, joy. As if there's this silent music, jovial, happy music playing in your heart. But it's loud enough, not just for yourself, but the whole world to hear through your behavior. All that thanks to you keeping the sila, or precepts, or just being virtuous, considering the outcome of your actions and how it befalls on you to choose them so that you can taste healthy products, healthy outcome of your actions. The wholesome, which is kusala, versus the akusala, or evil or bad actions. So let's be wise about those choices of our actions, whether they're thoughts, whether they're words that we use, or whether they are physical, bodily actions. So I'll ask to stop now.